Hey guys, just want to do a real quick update for the weekend. It was Monopalooza here in Pittsburgh, as many of you know if you watch our channel often. We had the IPMS show yesterday, and then today was my club's, the South Hills Modeling Association. We did our show today. This is going to really be a quick video because I got to go to bed anyway, and I'm really, as I was just sitting here sort of setting up for it, a sort of severe case of asses dragging. This is not going to be like a review video or anything else like that. Because I don't have anything really to review. I've been to the IPMS show in Pittsburgh one time before. I did not enter anything. I just sort of swung in to see what was going on. Their vendor area was much larger this year than it was 2 or 3 years ago when I stopped in, when there were only like 7 tables and nobody was selling anything automotive. They probably had about 20 tables and 2 or 3 people vending automotive stuff. So that was nice to see, mainly because on the contest tables themselves, it was severely an automotive-heavy entry compared to all of the IPMS classes combined. Now, the IPMS guys, of course, had really nice work on the table, but there was just by far probably a 2-to-1 margin automotive to especially like a single category like ground vehicles or aircraft or ships or whatever. As a whole, the IPMS was probably like a, something in the neighborhood of like a 1.5 to 1 kind of ratio. But if you went just tanks versus automotive by far was 150 more entries than any individual, even mass grouping like tanks. If tanks are broken up into scales and they're broken up into theaters of war, stuff like that, even as a whole, ground vehicles as a whole taken together, the automotive class was by far much larger. Got to run into Hunter up in the show yesterday. Hunter also came to our show today. Congrats to the awards he picked up. He had a really good weekend at both shows. I'll leave it to him to tell you what he got and what he picked up. Kit-wise and award-wise, he'll do his videos on his own time. Right now he's probably trying to get back down to Virginia on his way home, because I just left the show not that long ago, and I live about 25 minutes away from our venue. Our show went pretty well today. We were in a new venue on a new date, so we were kind of hoping that everybody would show up. We had really good attendance as far as the amount of people through the door. For being a nicer day. It was rainy all day today, so it wasn't like, sunny and you could go out and do something, but it was 62, 65 degrees today. For it being a nicer day, I was kind of a little disappointed by the turnout that was on the contest table part of it. I thought I would have liked to have seen more models entered in the show, versus the amount of people that just, came through the door to do the vendors. Now, the vendors, I'm sure, were very happy with the turnout. As far as what they got to sell and stuff like that. I have a friend who's vending, and he probably sold more today than he had the last 2 of our shows combined, I believe is what he said. So in that aspect, it was good. People's choice, it's the judging was people's choice. So, that is what it is. Sometimes the best model doesn't necessarily win a viewer's choice, people's choice contest. In the sense that, a lot of people are just going to go in, they're going to pick what they like, rather than what maybe is the best constructed model or the best built model or anything like that, which isn't to, bash the crowd, so to speak, but, how many people coming through the door, other than the builders, really know what to look for if they were judging a show, for sure. The only judging issue that could have been said to be had was at the IPMS show, where several guys that form like their own little club around here. They're not an actual club, but they all have matching dance shirts or matching gang shirts, if you want to call it that, for their little online club. Did a good bit of the automotive judging, which they were also entered in, and I that's sort of the old adage: you don't enter the show. If you don't enter a show, you're going to judge. Some people have different views on that. But in the end, they didn't, it was what is known in IPMS as open judging, which means that you're not necessarily judged on a first, second, third based on your class as much as you are a first, second, third based on the IPMS building guidelines, which if you go on IPMSUSA.org and just search for building guidelines, you can find what their building guidelines are. It's a good read, especially for anybody who's starting out and just getting into the basics, because If you follow their guidelines to build their models the way that they, their framework, you're probably going to win a lot because, first of all, you can enter any IPMS show and be within the guidelines and know you'll do well. Plus, whether anybody wants to really hear it or not, building to IPMS guidelines is pretty much going to get you above just the random automotive builder. It just is. So, like they said, they didn't seem to cheat anybody, and they themselves did not seem to get higher awards than anybody else. But, at the same time, it just has that sort of weird appearance that, you're judging a contest in a category you're in. Which, at the same time, you got the car guys judging the airplanes. What do we know about it? So, did take the McLaren up. So, that was there were basically 3 automotive classes. Automotive street, automotive race, and automotive truck. That was, because of it being open judging, they're not, split into 55 categories like a regular IPMS show would be. And then everything is judged. There's a gold, bronze, silver, which is first, second, third. But again, you're being judged against the guidelines of the IPMS rather than individually. Now, I know some people don't like that because they're, competition, I want to beat the other guy. Rather than, there being, I think, automotive total, there were 12 golds, which is actually kind of a lot. Based on that show in the past. I don't know how many silvers and quite a substantial number of bronze. And so that's what we did for the McLaren. It picked up a bronze. I like these little coins that the IPMS Pittsburgh does. I like their logo, the whole build and die thing. It's about the size of a dollar, I guess. The dollar coin. So that's cool. It's always good to place with something that that has placed before. The McLaren doesn't really do real well in a People's Choice type of contest because it's a evil foreign car and evil foreign race series and stuff like that. Which isn't to say that nobody knows about that type of racing or the race series, but especially when you combine it with drag classes, which is going to be almost everybody in there is going to full detail their kits and stuff like that. I've said it before. It's real hard to win a competition class against full detail builds that include straight line drag cars with an out of the box curbside, which that's sort of why I think the open judging is great because you're judged on the merits of your build rather than what people like. I've seen before where at contests where drag cars have taken first, second, and third place, and the circle track guys have gotten absolutely nothing at all. And it isn't like they didn't deserve anything, but the club likes drag cars, and so that's what they voted on. So there's something to be said for open judging. There's something to be said for viewers' choice, getting the judging out of it entirely. So at any rate, as far as our show goes, the only known issues I know about that have been sort of brought up to me were like the real hot and heavy time of about 10:30 when everybody was showing up to enter models and everybody was there shopping. We ran out of parking. It's a new venue. We thought that parking was sufficient, and it ended up being maybe like 10 spaces short. It wasn't like there were 100 more people than we had parking spots for. But some people were quite rude, actually, about the fact that we didn't have any parking. I was like, what do you want us to do about it? We didn't pave this parking lot. We're just here. And then everybody seemed to like the venue. I like the venue. I like to get us back at that venue, but we'll see what happens with that. A lot of that comes down to financial stuff of hall rental fees. See if they can match where other prices that we'll get. It is what it is. And there's a little bit of whining by people who don't understand what classes really are and what goes into them. The irony of the whining was the fact that they were complaining that something was taking votes away from them. And it's like, well, it's people's choice. How do you know who's voting for what? I mean, you might know what your little clique of people are voting for, but beyond that, 203, well, it might have been close to 500 people through the door. We'll have to see what the attendance actually wanted to be in. But I'd say at least 300 people through the door. Everybody got a ballot just for general admission, so it wasn't participant choice like the show coming up next weekend, the Buckeye Scout Classic is, where you have to build something to vote, then vote in the contest. So, how do you know what got votes? And he won. And then as I was leaving to go put stuff in my car, I heard him outside with his little click running his mouth some more about how, maybe we just gave him the trophy because he was complaining. Well, no, he actually won legitimately fair and square. And the entire irony of this thing is for all the hubbub he was causing about this, because he ended up with me and the guy doing registration and the club president involved in this discussion that he was wrong about, frankly, it's just the way it is. He won the class he was in over the thing that he claimed was taking all his votes, and the person who was doing the ballot counting didn't know anything about it. So, it wasn't even like we went over and, rigged the numbers and stuffed the ballot box, which technically is what he's doing by bringing 15 people with him, buying a trophy. We didn't have anything to do with it on our end. The guy who counted the ballots, did the tabulations, and presented me with a list to do because I was running the PA system and did the awards ceremony. He didn't know anything about it. And so, he just handed me a list, and it was, I don't know. If you're that, worried about getting awards, you're really, really looking at the hobby the wrong way. There are people like Hunter who build only for competition, and, they want to place with their models when they go to a competition, of course, but it's one thing to want to place with your models, and another thing where you are causing a ruckus because I'm not going to get a trophy. Sometimes you don't have the best stuff. And in this case, he won anyway, so the people thought he had the best stuff. Anyway, we'll just leave it at that. So I picked up two things this weekend. At the IPMS show, they had a drawing for an automotive kit that had a gift certificate to HobbyLink Japan in it. And so, Shazam. This is the recently done, about maybe 3 months or so, the Ebro MP430 McLaren Honda early season version. Let me get this on here so you can see it better. So I've already I didn't spend my gift certificate for it, but I did already go to HobbyLink Japan and order the early season decal set to acquire the Johnny Walker alcohol sponsorship that this kid is lacking, because save the children from the evil of alcohol. And also Studio 27 does a very, very robust carbon fiber decal sheet for this. It's like 2 sheets of decals, and I'm still not even sold technically on building this necessarily, because I've never done an F1 car before, and I don't watch F1. F1's not, I follow F1 within the consciousness of knowing what went on, and I know who won the championship last year, but I don't follow it race to race. I don't watch the races. I just know that the McLaren team, because I had to do the research for the kits when they came out, really stunk the joint up last year. They were talking about them not even coming back in 2016. Things were so bad for them. They are back in 2016, but, obviously Ebro signed the agreement to make that kit well before the 2015 season started, so they didn't intend to make a very, very stinky team car, but it's sort of what it worked out to be. Although we're now on our second or third run of those Taboo design alcohol decals, and the second or third run of the carbon fiber decal sheets for that kit, which means that they have, I don't know how many they've sold, because you have to look at, you produce, then you distribute, and then you as the producer are out of stock, so you have to make more. But there are like 1,500 sets of decals. I don't know what Taboo Graphics does on their count, but Studio 27 does runs of 500. So if they're on their second or third, there's somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500 sets of carbon fiber for that out. So that's, glad to see that kit is successful, because, I like Ebro. I like what they're doing kit-wise, even if they do some duplication with Heller. But now with Heller being in receivership, it may not be an issue going forwards. And then today, I've been meaning to pick this kit up for a while. It's one of the very few truck kits that I actually have. Well, I have it now, but one of the very few trucks I'm sort of interested in, because this is going to be what pulls my car hauler. Because the car hauler that Revell did, the one that they just reissued at the end of last year, the auto transport trailer, is a 1980s, it's probably late 70s, early 80s design of a trailer. And it's still not something that you would see used today because it's too old, but that style of 6-car hauler is something you see used a lot with independent haulers who do a lot of auction work, do a lot of, I'm trying to think of auction work for insurance claims. They're hauling wrecked cars to the auction and stuff like that. And for some reason, the preponderance of those guys use Volvo trucks. So pick this up. That is the new Italy reissue They just reissued this in the fall. It's the same, basically the same kit that they did before. Actually, I think the other kit they did was a 680, but I think 780 is the top of the line truck. This is a curbside kit. I know that bothers some people because, why didn't they make a full detail? And I've heard that I'm not sure that this chassis is not exactly precisely correct with it. Again, it's going to be something that I'm building for a photo backdrop kind of thing. If it comes out well, it'll go to competitions and stuff like that. But it's going to be built box stock. I'm not going to go plumbing it and wiring it and stuff like that. So the fact that it's curbside, okay, cool, whatever, I don't care. And usually, our one of the major plastic guys, he has a lot of this kind of stuff, truck kits and trailers and stuff like that. Usually they're a little bit higher priced than other stuff, but this kit actually is $10 cheaper than it is through Tower Hobbies, which is probably one of the major ways you get an Italy kit, because obviously they're made in Italy. You can, of course, I think you might be able to buy off Italy directly. You can, of course, buy Italy kits through Hobby Link Japan and Hobby Search and Hobby Easy. But, here in the United States, these tend to get jacked up with that import cost. And to see it actually be $10 cheaper than Tower Hobbies, Tower Hobbies has free shipping. Well, so do I. So it's something I wanted for a while, and it's the only thing I bought today. And I didn't buy bought some raffle tickets basically, but I didn't buy the F1 car. So fairly cheap weekend. Got a cool F1 car that I may or may not actually build. I might just package the decals and sell it, or I might build it. We'll see what the decals look like when they get here. And then something I have been wanting that I got much cheaper than I would have gotten it otherwise. So it worked out well. Anyway, guys, hope you guys had a good weekend, and we'll be back probably just Friday, because I don't see me doing another video this week on anything. So we'll be back Friday for our regular show. We'll see you guys on the other side.